there's a serious question to be asked about what it takes to be labeled alt-right these days. So as someone who is quite familiar with the alt-right, you may recall all the way back to the 2016 election cycle when the alt-right and I went at it on a routine basis, mainly because they didn't like that I was a cuck Jew and I didn't like that they were a bunch of anti-Semitic mind freaks. So I'm not fond of the alt-right. I find the alt-right despicable. And when I say alt-right, I don't mean people who like memes. I think memes are funny. I don't mean people who voted for Donald Trump, because the vast majority of those people are not alt-right. I mean people who are actual racists who believe that there is a white supremacy inherent in the color of your skin, which is stupid and ridiculous and anti-democratic. Well, the problem is that the left has now broadened out the label alt-right to apply to anyone. So they've labeled me alt-right, which is incredibly insane. I mean, like full-on insane, considering I was the number one target of the alt-right in 2016. According to the Anti-Defamation League, I was the number one recipient of anti-Semitic tweets among Jewish journalists with a bullet. I mean, I'm talking 40% of all anti-Semitic tweets directed at journalists, many of these from the alt-right, were directed at me personally. And yet now I am supposed to believe that I'm a member of the alt-right. What made me a member of the alt-right? What made me a member of the alt-right is that I am not on the left. And the latest beneficiary of this particularly bizarre line of logic is, of course, our future president, Kanye West. So a few days ago, I warned you that if you're conservative and you are supremely just in love with the fact that Kanye West is saying some mildly conservative things on Twitter, you might want to hold off. You might say, great, I'm glad he said that on Twitter. But before you start declaring that he's a presidential candidate, before you start saying he's a celebrity who knows things, you might want to take a look at his older tweets, which include things like, "For pillows are hard to sleep on." True. I can't argue with that tweet, but not exactly in line with, I would say, the intellectual thinking of the conservative movement. But because Kanye tweeted these relatively mild things about how victim mentality is not good and how you ought to go out and work for yourself, and how he likes Candace Owens, who is the communications director over Turning Point USA, working with Charlie Kirk, both good folks. Well, now there's a person who's written for the Washington Post. Her name is Molly Roberts, and she says that Kanye West is an alt-right darling, which is weird since the alt-right is not particularly fond of black people. But again, this is the way that the left shrinks that Overton window. The left says there is a window of acceptable rhetoric, and if you're not on the left, you are outside that window of acceptable rhetoric. Sure, Kanye spent most of the 2000s saying that George W. Bush was a vicious racist, but now he's out of the tent because he says that self-victimization is a disease, and that's, I think, a direct quote. So here is what this leftist writes over at the Washington Post. Quote, "Kanye West was having a great weekend until he wasn't. One moment, the rapper, producer, entrepreneur was dispensing pearls of pseudo-philosophy on Twitter to the retweets of adoring observers. The next, many of those same admirers had turned to denouncing him instead. Oh, and he had become an alt-right darling. Whatever West is going through at the moment, the response to his Twitter spree reveals more about the people who have fled from him and those who have flocked to him too. West's fortunes reversed," writes this writer for the Washington Post, Molly Roberts, "when he expressed his admiration on Saturday for red pill YouTuber Candace Owens, an African-American Donald Trump supporter known for, among other things, referring to Black Lives Matter protesters as whiny toddlers pretending to be oppressed for attention. The following day, he tweeted 9 videos from Scott Adams, who gained his fame first for creating the cartoon Dilbert, and second for proclaiming that rape is a natural instinct of men and society a virtual prison for men's desires." Okay, that is taking Scott Adams wildly out of context. I believe Scott Adams' actual argument is that natural instincts of human beings are bad, and this is why you create civilizations, which I thought was a relatively uncomplicated and uncontroversial notion. In any case, this Molly Roberts continues, "It's easy to cast West as just another lost man, seduced by the far right's promise to provide a sense of purpose. All that pseudo-philosophy does suggest a preoccupation with the sort of existential problems figures such as psychologist Jordan Peterson, who has become a surprise lifestyle guru, claim they can solve. It's also possible to connect West's eccentric behavior on Twitter — this isn't the first time his forays into politics have discomfited some fans — to the mental health struggles that led to his 2017 hospitalization." So let's get this straight. Kanye West has been tweeting crazy crap for most of his career. I mean, I read you some of his tweets the other day, okay? We're like talking about finding antique fish tanks, right? That he needs an antique fish tank. Talking about how he is looking for a marble table, a marble conference table, because he can't actually have a meeting without a marble conference table. Okay? Kanye is the guy who tweeted, "I love me some me," right? I mean, Kanye is famous for not being unhinged, might be a word that you might use in connection with Kanye. Right? This is a guy famous for charging on a stage in the middle of a music award ceremony to yell at Taylor Swift. And now, only now, does the left discover that Kanye might be a bit unstable. Why is he unstable? Because he tweeted that he likes Candace Owens videos. All right. Well, this is the way this is going to go. Also, I love that they link Jordan Peterson, a former professor at Harvard University and now a professor over at University of Toronto, widely understood to be one of the smarter humans alive. to Kanye West, that West is just another lost man seduced by the far right's promise to provide a sense of purpose. It's so funny how the left talks about this. They never talk about followers of Bernie Sanders this way. Right? Bernie Sanders promises to provide a sense of purpose also. Right? His sense of purpose lies in the collective. And his sense of purpose is, I will tell you how you can help fix all of the problems of planet Earth by giving me lots of power and by redistributing all wealth. The left never says, look at all of these Bernie bros, right? These are guys who are lost, looking for something to do, bored, useless, and now they found a sense of purpose in Bernie Sanders. But when it comes to somebody on the right, then all of a sudden it's lost, angry young man experiencing existential angst. Welcome to the real world where a lot of people experience existential angst. The question is, who can cater to that in a healthy way? Jordan caters to that in a healthy way. But now they're saying that Kanye West is a Jordan Peterson devotee or something. I wish Kanye West were a Jordan Peterson devotee. I mean, I think that would be really good for Kanye. In fact, Kanye, go over and listen to Jordan Peterson's lectures on the Bible, on the Enlightenment. I think that that'd be great for you. But the Washington Post says that all of this makes Kanye West crazy. So he wasn't crazy when he was crazy. He's crazy when he's conservative. And the Washington Post continues. Or could it be that Kanye West is cloistered in a world of wealth, away from the realities of racism that motivated incidents like his live declaration on television after Hurricane Katrina that George Bush doesn't care about black people? He may be too preoccupied with his image of himself as a truth teller to recognize that the unconventional communication style he finds so attractive in Trump is just a way to cover up lies. So I love this too. So Kanye, who was supremely wealthy during Hurricane Katrina, I mean, the guy was worth tens of millions of dollars by the time of Hurricane Katrina. At that point, he wasn't out of touch. Now he's out of touch. And you can tell that he's out of touch because he's saying things that Molly Roberts doesn't like in the Washington Post. That's how you can tell, right? I mean, you know he's out of touch now. You know he's a member of the alt-right because he said that self-victimization is a problem. Because he said that you're in control of your own life. Kanye says these things, and boom, this dude is like Hitler. He is just like Hitler. And now he's not even a real black person, is what Molly Roberts is really saying, because a real black person would feel an authentic tie to his roots. And Kanye doesn't feel an authentic tie to his roots anymore because he's become so wealthy and so cloistered. Weird. I haven't heard the same thing about like Snoop Dogg, right? Because Snoop Dogg makes videos about shooting the president of the United States, right? Snoop Dogg is woke. So Snoop Dogg obviously has a tie back to the people. But Kanye has no tie back to those people, obviously, because he's wealthy, right? What happened is Kanye got rich and then he was on the left, but he still had a tie to his people. But then he was still rich and now he is saying things that aren't left-wing, and this means that he has lost all tie to being black. Kanye West is basically like Bill Nye the Science Guy in blackface. That's basically what he is right now, right? Except Bill Nye were right-wing. He's just a white guy. He's gone. There are people who are saying he's gone to the sunken place, right? Which is a reference to what I thought was the racially polarizing movie Get Out, which was overlooked by all the critics. The bad racial messaging in Get Out was overlooked by all the critics because obviously it was a left-wing film. The Washington Post continues, in any case, ascertaining why West thinks what he thinks is probably as fruitless as finding meaning in the bromides he's been offering up the past few days. All you have to be is yourself. The beauty is in the imperfections. Everything you do in life stems either from fear or love. It might be more useful to examine what the reaction to West's provocative tweets reveal about the left and right alike. So, how have people reacted to West's tweets? Okay, so here is what Molly Roberts writes in the Washington Post. Progressives. West's more typical fan base greeted his return to Twitter with breathless engagement. But the moment West expressed his approval of Owens, liberals recoiled. Eager to signal their lefty credentials, they withdrew their support the moment West went against the party line, which sort of sounds like this writer. Then there's the right, alls and otherwise. Most conservatives had less interest in West's work, and they certainly didn't like it when he condemned Bush. But now, a lineup of luminaries on the right has assembled to defend West against the liberal hordes. Where Alex Jones once called West a microcosm of America's degeneration, he now praises his bold moves against the thought police. Where Bill O'Reilly once described West as a disease, the former Fox host on Sunday decried the attack against him by American Stalinists. Okay, so first of all, I would just like to point out that Alex Jones is not really particularly representative of the American right. Right? You know, like Alex Jones, like that guy, not supremely representative of the American right. Most people on the American right were like, okay, glad Kanye's saying some nice stuff. Guy's still Kanye. He's weird. What do you have to say? Like, nothing here. Okay, but you can feel all these same things. Like I did an entire segment 2 days ago about why conservatives should not be over the moon about Kanye West suddenly embracing the right-wing agenda, right? At the same time, I'm defending him from American Stalinists like this column. I mean, this sort of thought policing. Kanye West said something bad. He must be crazy. He must be a right-wing racist. It's all insane. It's all insane. So this Molly Roberts concludes, In the end, the weekend's West affair was a very public display of people using other people. West has hyped up his announced album even further with the publicity he gained from courting controversy. Liberals have shown off their willingness to enforce ideological purity no matter who the offender is. And the far right has demonstrated once again they're willing to flip-flop at the slightest sign they might be able to land a mainstream celebrity recruit. Don't trade your authenticity for approval, West tweeted last week. Too late. Okay, well, again, the left would not be complaining because they were talking for years about what a woke guy he was when he was ripping into George W. Bush. So.